Okay, let me break it down for you.
Judgment, prejudice, bias, it all still exists.
If I want to take this huge, overwhelming problem, I have to start with myself.
Finally clicked for me.
Compassion is a necessity.
I remember when I came to green school for the very first time. There were no students, and I was really silent. This added to the beauty of the school. I was walking around and thinking by myself how fortunate I am that I can go to this school. After a few months being in this school, I started to notice how many people around me were complaining, including myself, about little things such as the food or the internet. I sat down with my homeroom teacher, Pat Kyle, and we talked about this. We talked about how ridiculous it is that we complain about these things when there are people who do not even have the basic needs. That's the moment I thought, that's it. I'm doing my green zone about complaining. Complaining is something we all do to let out our frustrations and worries. However, it is only healthy until a certain extent. For those who constantly complain and can only see the negatives in their lives, they are called chronic complainers. These people complain so much that they don't even notice anymore when they do it. It has become invisible to them. They think that the problems they have are the worst problems of the world, but they're not. In fact, if we would all throw our problems in a pile and saw everyone else's, we'd gladly grab ours back. We all have our own reasons to complain, but why do we actually complain? Firstly, we complain because it has become a habit to us. We don't notice anymore when we do it. You can compare it to bad breath. Other people notice you have it, but you don't. Secondly, we complain because it's a good conversation starter. When we complain to others, it is easier to find common interests. It's kind of like, you don't like that either? Oh my God, we should be best friends. Thirdly, complaining can be an excellent stress reliever. I mean, what feels better than to just let out your frustrations? I certainly feel better when I do it. Fourthly, we complain because we want validation for our beliefs. We want to hear from other people that we are right. It feels good to know that there are people who feel and think the same way as we do. Okay. As I already said, everybody has their own reasons. But, oh wait, no. Okay. Complaining does not necessarily have to be bad. In fact, it can have positive influence. And as I already said, everybody has their own reasons. But what are the benefits of complaining? Firstly, sometimes it just feels good to vent. Don't you have that sometimes? That feeling that you're just so frustrated, and if you don't let these frustrations out, you're going to explode. Once this explosion finally happens, you feel a lot better and have a clear view of the problem, which can lead you to finding a solution. Secondly, solutions feel very good. When you have a problem, you'll most likely go to someone you trust and tell them what's bothering you. Once they know what's going on, they can help you find a solution, which in return will save you some sleepless nights. Thirdly, complaining gets things done. You may have heard of the proverb, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, meaning the one who complains the most gets things done. Now, this does not mean that if you complain to the whole world, that your problem will magically be solved. What I'm trying to say is that if you complain to the right person, the person who has the power to do or change something about the problem, then it can work in your benefit. This is called effective complaining. Clearly, complaining has some benefit to it and can work as a stress reliever if done to the right person and if done in small doses. However, excessive complaining about a problem, does not matter how big or small, is never an efficient solution. We think that complaining is merely observing a certain situation, but it's much more than that and has consequences. When we are complaining, we are using our creativity in a negative way. The moment you complain, you're solely supporting your negative thoughts, and the more you do this, the more you activate your negative creativity. Doing this will only result in the attraction of the one thing you are complaining about. And complaining also gives us a reason to procrastinate. Be honest with yourselves. How many times has it occurred that you had to do something, for example, your homework, but said, well, it's so much work, or it's so hard, and just kept on repeating this to yourself, and eventually did not do it at all? So it keeps you from taking action in order to achieve your goals. Complaining gives us a reason to avoid responsibility. Who here has ever had a bad mark for a test, something? And a lot of times we say, well, it's not my fault. It's the teacher's fault for not teaching me. So we're blaming other people. Well, it's our own fault. The things I just mentioned are a few consequences. But the real danger for those who constantly complain is that they trap themselves in a negative reality, giving them even more to complain about. Their circumstances are endless. I always have bad luck. Life seems totally and consistently unfair. The complainer's circumstances are always unfair and surprisingly always beyond their control. This, of course, is not true at all. The problem they have lies in their thinking. It needs an update because they've made their reality identical with their thoughts. When a few complaining sessions with friends or family turn into a habit, we get into a more stress-causing territory. The moment it turns into a habit is the moment it goes downhill. There are risks that will start to form. Some of these are, we start focusing more on the problem than the solution. Complaining over and over again about a problem will not help you solve it. In fact, it will do the exact opposite. We get so focused on the problem that we get the feeling of being stuck, and this will only result in us being more stressed out and having absolutely no clue what to do about it. Many of you might have seen Pirates of the Caribbean. There's one line Jack Sparrow says that describes this perfectly. The problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. Secondly, negative groups start to form. En bon bailleur, on fait bailler sept, meaning a good yawner makes 7 others yawn. We all know that yawning is contagious. Once one person starts, another person starts, and so on. So eventually you will have a group of people who are constantly complaining and are only making others yawn. The problem with these groups is that they complain about everyone and everything without feeling any better and without getting any results. Thirdly, complaining drains others. If you constantly complain to another person, you can be experienced as an energy vampire. We all know what vampires do. They feed on others. Energy vampires work the same way. They suck out the energy of others, sometimes even unconsciously. Fourthly, half an hour of complaining or even listening to someone complain physically damages one's brain. Research from Stanford University has shown that if a person is exposed to complaining, it damages one's brain. Exposure to negativity peels back neurons in the hippocampus. This is the part of the brain we use for problem solving and cognitive functioning. Last but not least, complaining increases stress. When we complain, the body pumps cortisol in the bloodstream. Cortisol is the stress hormone. Cortisol also speeds up the aging process. We want to get things off our chest, and that's why we complain to others. But every time we do, we only end up getting upset all over again. We end up 10 to 12 times more irritated. Stop complaining, and you're much more likely to be optimistic and grateful. But how can we stop complaining? It is hard to break a habit, I know that, but it's not impossible. If we have time to complain, we have time to do something about it. Here are some tips to break the habit and manage your thinking. The first and most essential step to stop complaining is to become aware of the fact that you complain. Well, you might say, how can I do this? Well, observe yourself for 24 hours, and every time you catch yourself complaining, stop it. Second step is take responsibility. What I mean by this is that you need to realize that you are the creator of your own thoughts, the positive ones and the negative ones. Third one is focus on what you really want. When you catch yourself complaining, stop it and analyze your thought. Once you've done this, ask yourself, what do I really want? You need to be honest with yourself about what you want and what you don't want. Last but not least, change your negative thoughts into positive ones. When you complain, instead of focusing on the negative side of your complaint, focus on the positive side of it. You might say, it's so hot, but instead of saying that, you can say, it's so hot, but at least it's not raining. Or you might say, I'm so hungry. But you could also say, I'm so excited for dinner. A few months ago, I noticed I want to get rid of a bad habit. I was complaining about other people complaining. I was doing the exact same thing that irritated me about other people. I was complaining. Because of this, I wanted to go complaintless for 21 days. So every time I would catch myself complaining, I would switch a bracelet that I had, and I would switch it to my other arm, and I would start all over again at day 1. You don't want to know how many times I've done this. So, yeah. I'm not saying that this was an easy challenge. In fact, it was really hard, but I did it. This challenge changed me. I wake up happier, I feel happier, and I'm really proud of myself. This is something I would have never, ever, ever, ever said about myself, but now I can, and I actually mean it. Complaining does not make you a bad person. It is putting a restraint on living an amazing life. That is why I want to challenge all of you to go complaintless for 21 days. See how it will change you. Thank you.